Hello and welcome to the More Confidence with Luna Gaia podcast. I'm your host, Lunaria Gaia, and here we talk all things body image, self-esteem, your thinking in your mind. How do you connect true to you in every part of who you are? I want you to know that all of you is welcome, so sit back and relax and listen to today's episode. Sending you love. Welcome to episode 165 of the More Confidence with Luna Gaia podcast. Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. All of the things that we can possibly think of. We are now coming into that very, very pointy end of the year. And in the next few episodes, I'm going to help you navigate your way through what can be this crazy, silly season that we do have. So in today's episode, we're really going to look at how to navigate the next week and a half that's coming up, because there's a lot of pressure that goes down. Don't you think? A lot of pressure that happens. There's a lot of conflict that can happen with our families. It can be a really difficult time for many people. In our next episode, the week between Christmas and New Year's, yes, I'm still going to be having an episode out then. That's going to be like a bit of review of 2023. Which, of course, you can do at any point in time. It doesn't mean you have to do it between Christmas and New Year's. You can do it whenever you want. It could be the middle of July for all that it actually matters. But this is an opportunity for you to be able to really sink into and look at what's been going on for your life and how you maybe want to create it differently moving forward. I'm not a big New Year's resolution kind of gal, but moving into the beginning, our first episode of 2024, I'm really going to give you what actually works. How do we create sustainable change? So keep a lookout for these episodes that are coming up, today's episodes and the next couple of episodes, because these are going to be really helpful for you to navigate this crazy, silly season of the end of the year and move into a place that maybe has a little bit more calm and a little bit more actual joy at this joyful time of year. If you are joining me for the very, very first time, thank you for being here. Well, thank you for everyone for being here, really. I know that you could be doing a gazillion other things, and maybe you are. Maybe you're listening to me while you're driving, while you're walking. If there's kids in the car, hello. Hello to everyone that is around listening right now. Thank you for being here. I really see in you somebody who wants to do things differently. Because at this podcast here, what I'm all about with everything that I do is to help you get out of your unconscious patterns of unhappiness, of misery, of low self-esteem, of low confidence, and move into a place of consciousness where you feel good about yourself, where you are no longer run by negative thoughts, where emotions aren't hijacking you all the time, where you be a confident, happier, and freer version of you. Because isn't that what we really all want at the end of the day? Like, all I want for Christmas is peace. Like when we talk about this kind of peace on earth that Christmas comes through, the stuff is fun. We get toys and we get whatever. But really, when it comes down to it, ultimately what humans really want is to be free. We want to be happy. And most of us get a bit confused about what that happiness really is. And I've got some projects in the working right now that I think is going to be very, very exciting coming through. Keep a lookout for my website. Follow me on the socials to have a bit of a geeze around my work around happiness and getting free. We really want that, the deep down true happiness, lasting happiness. Not the kind of pleasurable hit of joy that we might get from having another serving of pavlova for my Australian Christmas people. You know, when we get that sugary hit and we feel great and everything's fabulous, what we're really looking for is sustainable happiness, which we're going to talk about today in the next few episodes. And of course, if you followed me for long enough and you've listened to any of the 164 episodes that came before this one, you would discover that that's what I am all about. This is no fluff. I'm not here to blow smoke up your skirt. I'm not here to convince you of something to be true. I'm not your guru. You are your guru. You are the one that's going to resolve the unhappiness in your life. And I am honored to be able to help you to create that. I'm honored to be able to maybe be the guideposts along the way, because I used to hate myself too. I used to doubt myself all the time. I was unhappy relentlessly. And I chased everything that I could possibly chase, bar really heavy drugs like maybe heroin or ice and that kind of stuff. Like I never became a fully fledged drug addict, But my gosh, I've flirted and danced and definitely had relationships with everything under the sun to try to numb the feeling of I'm not happy. I'm talking weight loss, I'm talking diets, I'm talking binge eating, food, I'm talking gambling, I'm talking plenty of drug use, right? Plenty of drug use, alcohol, scrolling, shopping, having lots of promiscuous sex, relationships, going through as many things as I possibly could to numb the sensation inside of me that I was really unhappy. And what I've discovered in my life is nothing short of a freaking miracle to be able to help us to be more happy, which I know that you want to be. So if you are here and you've never been here before, I say welcome to you. I welcome to everyone, and I welcome to those especially who have just joined us. And really, that's what I'm all about. If you're curious about my coaching, or if you're curious about how I work, if you're curious about hiring me to speak at your company or organization, really the foundations of who I am, this is a really good window for you to look about how I roll, right? I'm no fluff, I'm no nonsense, but I also come with kindness and compassion because I understand that we never hate ourselves into happiness. We don't reject ourselves into a feeling of love and compassion and joy. That's not going to work. It never did for me back then when I hated myself, and it's not going to work for you now. It's not working. You know that. You're smart. You have a lot of intuition inside of you that you've been ignoring. So, part of my job, my mission is to help you bring that wisdom out. You're clouded by your thinking right now. You're clouded by this mind up here, and I want to bring a different perspective for you so that you can start tapping into the truth of who you really are, the truth of the wisdom that lies inside of yourself. Shall we do that? Shall we hang out and sort that out? Thank you for such an incredible year. Really, for those of you who have been hanging out with me for the last 12 months or the last 165 episodes, if you've been spending time with me on social media, attended any of my courses or trainings, or coached with me, any way, shape, or form that you've been hanging out with me this year, thank you. It is an absolute honor that you help me do this work. You help me absolutely by listening, by sharing this, by pressing that subscribe button, which is what I want for Christmas. For you to follow me means that more people can get access to this life changing work that makes people happier, because that's what we all want to be. So thank you. Thank you very much. So, coming up, Christmas is one of those times that, as kids, I think that many of us really looked forward to. It was super exciting. We saw the Christmas lights go up and we had decorations around our house, and maybe Santa was going to come. By the way, I will be having conversations that maybe reveal some information around Santa that adults might not yet want their children to know throughout this conversation potentially. So just giving you a bit of a heads up, parents, that if you do have little ones listening, there's some secrets about Santa that are not yet maybe ready for everyone's ears. So maybe decide to make different decisions around your playing right now. Now that we've done that, Christmas as a kid, we're excited, right? Because Santa's going to come down that chimney, and it's magical. It's magical. Santa's going to get to every single house in the entire world in one night on his reindeer, with his Santa sack and sleigh. And he's going to come down the chimney, irrelevant if you have one, and sprinkle fairy dust and bring gifts. And as a child, it is so wondrous because all the family's there and people gather around, and whatever your experience of Christmas is like, I loved Christmas as a kid. It was a really beautiful, joyous, connected experience for me where we would just eat and be merry all day. And then in the evening, our friends would come over once I was older and we'd all get drunk. And it would be a really big day, but a really fun day and a really loving day. Of course, as life then happens, maybe Christmas is still like that for you. And maybe it's stressful. Yeah, maybe it's a bit of both. It very well could be. It's stressful and joyful. This time of year that is meant to be full of festivity can often become a place to fester. It becomes festy, like it's not exactly as we would like it to be always. That's the thing, because we're maybe dealing with family conflict. We're having to deal with, financial conflict as well. Maybe there's financial situations where you're like, well, I can't really afford to put all those Santa gifts under the tree or give gifts to every single one of my family, but you feel obligated to do so. So you end up spending maybe hundreds, if not thousands of dollars when you can't really afford it. And that puts strain on your family for the rest of the year or even you now. So it can be family, financial, school holidays for everyone around the world. I think at least this Christmas New Year's period, even in the northern hemispheres, there's some time off. For us here down in Australia, usually it's 6 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks of our kids being off. It's a summer break. So that can add more strain. And of course, the social occasions. It's busy, right? They call it the silly season. Not because we're like, oh my God, everything's so fun. It's like, get to this thing next, 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 next. I've got this party and I've got that party. And although that sounds wonderful and joyous, when it's winter and it's dark and not much is going on and we're not getting many social invites, sometimes that causes a lot of, social anxiety. Like, oh my God, I have to go to another party and have another small talk conversation. And maybe there's a whole bunch of like overeating, there's a whole bunch of overindulgence, there's expectations to drink, there's greed, there's, all of these expectations of what you should do and all of these expectations around what you think it should be like the whole period. And very often what that lends itself to is exhaustion. It lends itself to stress. It lends itself to putting yourself in a position where you're getting to January and it's a relief for it all to be over, only for you to then have to go back to your everyday life and go back to work. You haven't had a break. People go, how was your Chrissy break? And you're like, what break? I was relentlessly socializing, dealing with my family constantly. And I had to go from next to next. Look, I know that's not true for everybody, but it is a narrative that plays out pretty strongly across many different people's lives. Maybe even the stress for you is that you don't have family. Maybe the stress for you is that you are alone on Christmas. You know, maybe it's for you, you're like, I don't have lots of parties to go to, and all the stress, how much I would like to get invited to too many parties, right? Because maybe you don't have people to connect with at this time of year. Maybe you're going through some shit because life doesn't stop just because it's Christmas. My elder brother, he passed away in 2011 and he got really sick on the 13th of December and passed away within a month. So that Christmas period for us in 2011 was awful. Absolutely awful. We're in hospitals. We're going, will he live? Will he not? Obviously he didn't. Like we can be having loved ones dying on those days. It's not always this magical, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Yeah, it is. There's plenty of joy that can be around and people are in a more festive, joyful kind of mood. But if you're going through stuff that isn't so great, it can just be a knife stabbing into a wound, rub some more salt on it, which is how I felt in 2011, 12, 13, right? So no matter what Christmas is like for you, I see you. This holiday period, whatever it is, be that you're not participating in Christmas, you do or you don't, it can be a difficult time of year for many, many people. And I want to give you some strategies on how to maybe do that differently. Would that be useful to you, do you think, for you? Do you think to have some different strategies on how to actually get through this Christmas holiday period without being super stressed, without feeling all the crazy overwhelmed feelings like you have in the past? Let me share that with you. One of my favorite mentors, he's a spiritual mentor and his name is Matt Kahn. You may have heard me speak about him before. Matt Kahn says that if you think you've done the inner work, go spend a week with your family. And I think that nothing is more true at this time of year with Christmas, right? Like, because we are probably likely to spend more time with family than we would usually, if that's available to you, or if that's your choices, right? I know that for me, I have a couple of siblings. The only time that I see them is at Christmas. So, it's once a year. It's once a year. We might talk to each other on one another's birthdays, but for the most part, our Christmases, is the time of year that we see each other. It's not even on Christmas Day. It's probably a week or two before Christmas, and we We hang out at my mum's and we do some stuff. We hang out, we eat, we say, "How you been? How was your year?" We have all those conversations, and then we don't see each other for another 12 months. It's usually how it rolls. And in the past, that's caused some pain for me of like, no, it's meant to be a different way. I'm going to get to that point in a minute. But when we spend time with our family of origin, where you grew up, have you ever noticed that everybody just becomes who they were when you were children, including you perhaps? That the same arguments happen, the same tempers flare, the same, in my case, the same pretending like we have a family and a relationship beyond that confine. We pretend, right? We pretend that that this is all happy families, and you see the family photo and you think, "Wow, oh my god, amazing!" And of course, it is on the day, and it's lovely, and we enjoy each other's company for the day. But it's not this picture perfect thing that maybe other people might perceive it to be. All of your old patterns are going to come up with your family, especially your parents or whoever raised you. Whoever raised you are the ones that like unconsciously embedded all of your misery today. I'm not saying that your parents made you miserable. I'm not saying that your family made you miserable, but all of the beliefs that you have, all the conditioning that you have, for the most part, came from your childhood. The way that you see the world, the way that your map of reality is, came from when you were a child. So is it any wonder that when we go in to hang out with our parents, we become childlike? This may become a bit of a surprise to you. Maybe you have a partner and you've never seen them around their family before. And the second that you see him, them, you see your family, your loved one around their mother, you're like, "Oh my God, who are you?" What's just happened is that you've met the 5-year-old version of your partner. You've met the 8-year-old, the 13-year-old. I've got a dear friend of mine that whenever his mum hasn't lived in the same country as him for like 20 years, right? And whenever his mum comes back into town, he becomes a child. She does all the washing up. She does all the cooking. She, even takes care of his kid. And he just becomes like a petulant teenager. And they become a bit snooty and they fight. They just fall automatically into the roles that they had when they were 15, 16. And it's likely that you are doing that too. Which is why the stress of family can be so significant, irrelevant of the time of year that it is, let alone adding financial pressures and expectations and too much booze, right? And probably too much sugar as well, like hyping up all the kids, including us. Recognize that that is what's happening. That's going to take you a really long way to realize, oh, we're all just playing out our childhood programming. We are all just, oh my God, we are simply just reverting to our childlike selves, including our parents. They're reverting to their, parent-like self. When it comes to you, you might have a great relationship outside of those family environments. But when the family gets put together, mum becomes mum, dad becomes dad, brothers and sisters become brothers and sisters again. Unconsciously, of course. You're not doing it on purpose. And ideally, the way that I help you get out of misery is to stop being unconscious and move to consciousness. It's not going to be our conversation today. That's more about just like stop the automatic autopilot that's happening to you and put your car in manual and actually start to drive again. Not today's conversation, but of course, we've spoken about that lots of time in the podcast. So go check it out, some of the old episodes. And maybe even join one of my courses in Claim Your Confidence Level 1 and Level 2. We really start to unravel the beliefs, how fearful our mind tends to be. We look at your thoughts. We look at your, like the negative thoughts especially, and how your emotions are hijacking you, how to feel differently about your body and how to do life differently with different boundaries, learning your passion. All that stuff is outlined in level 1 and level 2 of Claim Your Confidence. So you might be interested to go, hey, maybe there's a course that I want to participate in. Maybe I want to hang out with Luna in 2024 and do something different. For now, what we're doing here is let's help you get through these next week or so, next couple of weeks. So the very first thing that I really want you to do, I just had a little moment of like, because I really wish this for you. I really wish this for you. And I know that you're a people pleaser, and I know that this one's going to be pretty challenging. First thing I want you to do is to have permission to disappoint people. Oh, do you feel it? Is it like a little wound in your heart? Permission to disappoint people. Yeah, because everybody has expectations, right? And sometimes you are giving yourself to people, making yourself available. Oh, yeah, I will do all of this for Christmas to keep everybody else happy, but making yourself unhappy in the process. If people get disappointed because you aren't showing up in the way that you used to in Christmas, or you decide that you're not going to go to that social event, some people might be disappointed. It's okay. It is okay to be disappointed. It's okay to have an experience where we don't always get what we want. If we were talking to a child and we were like, you can have everything you want always, what kind of child does that end up being? Usually entitled, obnoxious, selfish, right? Getting what we want all the time is not great for us. Not you, not me, not someone else. I know that you don't want to disappoint anybody. I know that you don't. But expectations are, they're predetermined disappointments. When you have expectations, you will be disappointed at some point in time because not everybody can live up to your imaginings inside of your head. It's impossible. You can't have the day exactly how you want it to go because everything else around you is their own free will. Everyone else around you has their own free will. Yeah, everyone around you can say and do whatever they want. They're not going to fall perfectly in line with everything that you want them to do. And you won't either. Be okay to be disappointed and be okay to disappoint other people. It will be uncomfortable. You're unlikely to like it. It's okay. What's the trade-off? So you go and you make sure that everybody's needs are always taken care of, and you spend exorbitant amounts of money, and you run around like a headless chook, freaking out that you're not going to have everything in place for the day. And people will still not have their expectations met. You'll be stressed. You'll have an awful time of it. When what you could do is just take some stuff off your load, decide not to do it as crazy like you've done every single other year, make different decisions. And yes, people will be disappointed, but they'll be okay. They will be okay, I promise you, and so will you. You can do hard things. If it's uncomfortable, you'll be okay. I promise you, you'll be okay. That's number one. Number two here is about setting and keeping boundaries. Now, this whole, in Claim Your Confidence Level 2, we do 4 weeks on boundaries, and even then, it's not enough. I could do a fully, full semester worth of boundaries, and we'd only just really be starting to scratch the surface on this. So I appreciate that this comment around, this step number 2, I can't give you everything that I possibly have to give you. In Claim Your Confidence Level 2, where we talk about boundaries, it is pretty extensive, and you get a good opportunity to be able to practice that live. What I want to give to you here at this point in time is that it's not just the setting of boundaries that's important, but it's the keeping of boundaries. A lot of you are probably okay to say, no, I'm not buying anything for Christmas this year. And then you start to feel uncomfortable, or you feel guilty, or you feel bad for disappointing people. And then you end up buying presents. So you don't keep the boundary. The keeping of the boundary is a lot more difficult than the setting of the boundary, right? You can say, no, I won't have any cake. I don't need seconds. But then somebody goes, you sure, have some more? And you're like, oh, okay, I will have some more. Nothing wrong with having cake, nothing wrong with buying gifts. Simply that if that's what your boundary is, have the courage to keep it. Yeah. It's okay to say no. It kind of speaks to number 1 here. Set your boundaries. If you stress out because your mother expects you to spend 12 hours at her house on Christmas Day, but you need to go to your partner's mother's house as well, A, you're going to be disappointing people. B, set boundaries. You don't owe anybody anything. Come with love, come with compassion, come with kindness, right? Be considerate of other people's experiences, and also recognize it's one day of the year. It's one day, it's Christmas. You can celebrate the week before, you can celebrate afterwards. It's about coming together. It's not necessarily about, it has to be perfect on the day. Set your boundaries. even in the confines of where you are. If you are spending a day and people are at your house, tell people to go home. Or say, I'm going to go take a rest now. I'm going to go spend an hour lying down, in my bedroom. You think to yourself, but the kids will go crazy and all that kind of stuff. Set your boundaries. You will be okay. Set and keep your boundaries. So, number one, be okay to disappoint people. Number two, set and keep your boundaries. And as I said, if you want some help with that, my coaching books are also open for 2024. So there's only limited spots. I only take 10 at a time. And I think that I've probably got two or three that are rollovers from this year. So there's probably only about 6 or 7 spots that are available for 2024. So if you're interested in doing that, in coaching with me one-on-one, or you want to join any of my courses, just get in touch. You know where to find me. Number two, setting boundaries. Number one is being okay to let people down. Number three is one that I have found to be really calming, really keeps you. If you have any kind of daily practice that you do right now, I really encourage you to keep the practice over the next week or so. It's going to be crazy. You're going to go here and everywhere. And that week between Christmas and New Year's feels like a blur. And if that's totally fine for you and you like kind of going just with the flow of that and that sounds great and you don't want to do any of your practices, rock on. There's no judgment here. But sometimes having a regular practice that you still do every day allows you to keep staying anchored in the present moment rather than get carried away with, oh, I got to be here and I got to be there and, be exhausted by the end of it. If you meditate daily, keep meditating daily. Maybe it's not as centered or as focused as what it usually would be. Maybe it's not for as long, but keep the practice. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's practicing an instrument. Maybe it's, washing your hair. I don't know, whatever it is. If you have some kind of regular practice that you do, see if you can implement that throughout the next week and a half, because what that's going to do for you is to keep you in with certainty within inside of yourself. Very often during this period of time, we feel really chaotic because there's no anchor point. Perhaps you're not going to work, that maybe the children aren't going to school. You don't kind of know what time to wake up. And that can feel really good and really freeing. If it does to you, ignore this. But if you find that it gets a bit chaotic and you kind of don't know where you need to be and you kind of just get swept away with what everyone else is doing, then keep some kind of practice. Maybe every day you go for a walk, just for 20 minutes or half an hour. Maybe you make that decision to do that over this period of time so you keep some kind of daily practice. The fourth one here is a big one. You've got to drop your expectations. Replace them with appreciation, right? There's this experience of like, it has to be a certain way. And like I said before, expectations are predetermined disappointments, right? You will be disappointed when you have the more expectations that you have, the more you will be disappointed. That's the nature of it, because it has to be so deliberately this way or no other way possible for you to be happy. So what you want to do is see if you can just reduce your expectations a bit. It doesn't have the kitchen table doesn't matter if it doesn't have the centerpiece exactly the way that you think it's going to be. No one's going to die, nothing's going to happen. This is true for life as well. When you have really high expectations of everything that needs to happen in order for you to be happy, it's a lot harder to be happy. So reduce those expectations. And finally, number 5, play. It's meant to be the most wonderful time of the year, right? It's meant to be joyful. It's meant to be, exciting. So let yourself play. Get on the ground with the kids and their new toys. Let yourself get swept away rather than be like, oh my God, I got to get the chicken in the oven and the potatoes, whatever. I know you've got things to do, but let yourself play. Let yourself relax. Let yourself slow down. Yeah. So number 1 here, we have permission to let people down, permission to disappoint. They'll be okay. You'll be okay. Number 2, set and keep boundaries throughout this time. The third one here is if you can keep your daily practices, you're going to have a sense of routine. Doesn't mean go rigid and you have to work out every day. Just keep some thread of certainty throughout the week and a half or 2 weeks or whatever it's going to be. Number 4, drop your expectations and replace them with appreciation. It's pretty cool that for most of us, we get to be around people that we love, or that we're meant to love, or that love us, or that are meant to love us, and that we get to share in overindulgences and have this time of year. Appreciate that. And number 5, go play. A bit of backyard cricket. If you're in the southern hemisphere, maybe go make a snowman. In the northern hemisphere, if it happens to snow, whatever it is, allow yourself to enjoy. Give yourself permission to enjoy the process. Like I've said a couple of times throughout here, in 2024, courses are available. They're called Claim Your Confidence. And really what they're all about is to be able to teach you in level 1, the foundations of how to deal with your negative mind, how to deal with your emotions, how to overcome your fear, all of that stuff. And level 2 is an extension of that in terms of boundaries, in terms of open communication, finding your passion, purpose, and having the courage to go after what you really want in your life. So if you're curious about any of those or coaching, please just come, get in touch with me. You know where to find me. You can shoot me through an email, loveyourself@moreconfidence.com.au. But I think most of you follow me on the socials anyway, so you can always send me a message there, which I'm probably more likely to reply to sooner, by the way. If this time of year is really difficult for you, please reach out, reach out to someone. There's Beyond Blue and Lifeline organizations here in Australia that are really helpful for people in times of crisis. So please reach out and connect with people who can help you with, getting through these tough times. And if you do need to reach out to me, please feel welcome to do so. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. We have one more episode coming through in 2023. Next week's episode is going to be all about reviewing our year to reflect on it. What's it like? What have you done? What haven't you done? How do we prepare ourselves for a more intentional 2024? I look forward to seeing you there. With so much love, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you say at this time of year. I love you, and I hope you love you too. Thank you so much for listening to the More Confidence with Luna Gaia podcast. I hope you feel more confident, more self-assured, and ready to go tackle the world's problems and maybe kick ass in some of your dreams. If you haven't already, I would love for you to like and subscribe, follow, and maybe leave a review so that other people know how to find this awesome podcast too. If you're wanting to sink your teeth into something even more juicy, my #1 best-selling book, Perfectly Imperfect, Your Complete Guide to Loving Yourself and Loving Your Body, is now available on all good bookstore sites, both in print, digital, and I narrated it for Audible as well. If you think that coaching or maybe one of my courses is for you, why not head to www.moreconfidence.com.au and get in touch and see if we can talk. And of course, you can find me all across the social medias. That's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, which is where you're probably listening now, or maybe even here on the podcast platform. Sending you big love and wishing you a beautiful day.